in the scheme of law firms, there's only about 20 of us. We believe we are the largest law firm in the country focused on the representation of people with health, life, disability problems. I'm aware of no firm larger. There's defense firms that are much larger, but no plaintiffs firms. We have the ability to work nationwide.
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Welcome to another episode of Business Ninjas. I'm here with Glenn Kantor, who's the founding partner of Kantor Kantor Law Group. Hey, Glenn, how are you?
Good. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Glad to have you here. Tell me a little bit about Kantor Kantor and what you do over there.
Well, Kantor Kantor is a boutique law firm. We are focused on the representation of individuals who have problems with health insurance, life insurance, long-term disability insurance, pensions, long-term care. Basically anything health-related on behalf of individuals. We only represent individuals, never under any circumstances insurance companies.
So it sounds like people in a time of need, generally speaking, in those situations. Is that a fair assessment?
It's a very fair and very accurate assessment. People only call us when they've got serious problems.
So tell me a little bit about that. How did you get started in the company, and how did you end up here in this part of the law universe?
Well, in the early 80s, I finished law school, took the bar, passed the bar, and I was offered a position as an associate by a law firm that almost exclusively represented insurance companies. I had no reason not to take it. I wanted to be a litigator, and it sounded like a great thing to do. For a couple of years, I worked on a case that really was not involving insureds, but was a dispute between a large insurance agency and an insurance company, and it was very interesting. Then for a few years, I was asked to represent insurance companies who were denying claims and being sued. And I found my work abhorrent. I was sometimes defending insurance companies against fraudulent claims, but also I was asked to defend them against what I thought were perfectly valid claims that should be paid. And I spent a lot of my time fighting with my supervisors and my clients to try and get them to pay the claims rather than litigate. I became known as the plaintiff's defense lawyer within my firm. One particularly egregious situation came, and I basically told my boss, this is an indefensible action by the insurance company. I'm just not going to do it. He said, you got a choice, do it or quit. And I basically wrote a 30-page letter to the client explaining to them why they were going to be decimated in court if it went there. They called back and said, you know what, you're right, go settle the case and we'll pay them most of the benefits. And I did. And then I went to my boss and said, you know, I can't do this anymore, I'm leaving. And I joined another colleague to start a firm doing what I'm still doing, representing individuals. I was with that colleague who I still respect for about 12 years, and we decided to go a different way because he wanted to represent people in class actions, and I represented individuals, which I really liked. I wanted to know my clients, and I became partners with the single best lawyer I know, who happened to be my wife, who had been an appellate expert, and we created a law firm. There were about 8 lawyers that I had at my prior firm. We gave them the choice to come with me or go with my former partner, and all 8 came with me. And so that was in 2004. We've grown from 8 to 16 or 18 lawyers. I lose track. But our mission has stayed the same. We are representing people who are having problems with health, life, disability, or long-term care, or actually now we also do pension work. So the mission of the firm has stayed the same. We're out there to help people. We actually kind of developed a motto that we can do well by doing good for the public. And that's what we try and do on a daily basis.
Love that. It's such a great story and a great trajectory to where you are now. And so tell me a little bit about some of the scenarios that where you help your clients. It sounds like, again, they're in a time of need. They come to you and they say, give me an example of different kind of cases that you handle for them.
Well, just yesterday, a woman contacted us. For 20 years, she and her husband have been paying premiums for life insurance coverage. Her husband developed ALS. He had to close his business, and that's where the premiums were going. Premium notices were going to his business. A year ago, they changed or requested a change that the premiums be sent to their home. And they didn't get sent to their home. They got sent to the same post box office. They were returned to the insurance company, who waited until the coverage had lapsed and then found them and said, oh, by the way, we're sorry, your coverage has lapsed. You can apply to reinstate. Oh, your husband has ALS? No, that won't work. And now after paying premiums for 20 years and the coverage lapsing due to the insurance company's own negligent actions, they had no coverage. And I spoke to them yesterday, and I've already filed a lawsuit this morning to get the coverage reinstated. From my perspective, there are gray cases and there are black and white cases. And this is a case that's black and white, and my client is in the right. So that's a life insurance case. We have all kinds of health insurance cases where these days, life-saving medications are extraordinarily expensive. The carriers don't want to pay for it. We file suit or take whatever actions are necessary to get them paid. We have the actual heart of the firm. More cases than any other are for disability cases where somebody has MS, Parkinson's, lupus. They've worked for years. They've fought to keep working, and the symptoms of the disease take over, and they can no longer perform the material duties of their occupation. And they make a claim, and it's denied. The insurance carrier decides for them, no, you're not that sick. We think you can keep working. Unfortunately, most of these people are governed by a federal law that's entitled ERISA, which stands for the Employee Retirement Income Security Act of 1974. It was a law that was intended to protect people's pensions. In many ways, it's been turned on its head, and the only thing that's being protected are insurance companies. In California, insureds used to have tremendous rights and had great protection to bring what we call bad faith lawsuits. ERISA doesn't allow that. So now these people, the insurance companies deny claims left and right with no sword over their head if they're found to be culpable or found to have acted in bad faith. The worst that happens to them is they're ordered to pay the benefits and maybe pay some discretionary attorney's fees. So from my perspective, I see insurance companies just taking outrageous positions in the hope people go away. Unfortunately, many do. The ones that find us don't. We then step in, and we're very, very frequently successful. A vast majority of the time, the cases we take, I think we've lost 2 cases in 5 years because we are selective in the cases we take, and when we take a case, we typically win it.
Love that. And I love that you're the advocate for the individual, especially the underdog in this kind of scenario. And like you said, it's such a heartwarming kind of experience and relationship, I'm sure, that you have with your clients during what is typically a harrowing time. And like you said, they've worked their whole career and they're just in a bad situation against their insurance company. Tell me a little bit about what the course is like when you take on a case. For somebody who doesn't understand law, it's a little bit of a black box. Unpack that a little bit for me. What happened? So you they come to you and they say, I need your help. And then what happens typically from there, and how long do these cases take?
Well, it really depends if it's a case that's going to be governed by federal law or state law. If it's governed by the federal law I was discussing, before you can file a lawsuit, there is a requirement that the insured or employee ask that the denial be reviewed by the entity that denied it in the first place, whether it's an insurance company or a self-funded plan that uses it's called a third-party administrator. The law mandates that they must, in short term, we call it an appeal, request for reconsideration, a review. They must go through that process. And only the information that is given during this process will be considered by a court if there is litigation. So there are strict time deadlines. So it's very important to be done correctly. So if the person's claim is governed by ERISA, we get their claim file and we look to see what we can do to bolster their claim. Turn over every rock. We might be getting their doctor to write a letter, their employer to write a letter, a colleague to write a letter. We will do different kind of testing. I mean, we don't do the testing. We arrange to have medical testing experts, psychological testing, or functional capacity. If somebody has chronic fatigue, for example, there's a special test called a CPET test. It's a cardiopulmonary exercise test to determine how much fatigue they have. So we know what needs to be done to support these claims, and we'll go out and do it. If they're finally denied an appeal, we'll litigate them, and typically they're resolved within a year. If it's a bad faith case where we have potential for extra contractual remedies, we also file very quickly. It's a firm rule. We do our best to get cases on file within a week of being hired by the client. We don't want them sitting around for months waiting to have their lawsuit filed, because frequently we find that when a case is filed, lawyers then look at it, and lawyers will often say to their client, this was not done properly. You want to get rid of this case. And they'll also often want to try and get it resolved via mediation quickly. Doesn't always happen. Sometimes cases can take over a year, but it's not unusual that from the time the person walks in our office, that in 6 months, we've gotten their case settled. One thing I would stress about my firm that we're very proud of is that while we do settle a pretty high percentage of our cases, as does every litigator, less than 1% of lawsuits filed make it before a judge or jury. It's just the way the system, most cases settle. But we have a long track record of taking cases to trial when the insurance company won't offer a reasonable settlement and winning them. We have dozens and dozens of wins, published decisions where we've won the case. Because if a firm is not willing to take that step and say, okay, you don't want to settle for a fair number, let's go try the case, that the insurance companies know that the firms that just settle, they can pay less than full value because the last best offer that's going to be made will be accepted. Not with us. If that last best offer is something we recommend the client turn down, we enthusiastically go try cases.
And when a case goes to trial like that, how long does that trial take? And I know not every trial is equal, but typically.
Well, once again, it depends if it's an ERISA trial. Because in an ERISA trial, it's interesting. There's no jury. There's no witnesses. The judge just reads the file that's been compiled by us and the insurance company and our briefs and asks questions. It typically lasts half a day. If it's a bad faith case and there's bad faith experts and doctors involved, it could take a week. But those are tried far less frequently because the insurance company has a great deal more exposure and they're more willing to settle those cases.
Right. Makes sense. Talk to me about the financial aspect of this for your client. Do they pay you upfront? Do you work on a contingency basis, and how do you work, and what's the financial outcome typically for your clients?
Well, on very rare occasions, people want to hire us by the hour to consult with them, to read their policies, to advise them on what they need to be doing. That constitutes less than 1% of our practice. The other 99%, we handle cases on contingency. What that contingency is depends on the case, how much money is involved, how strong the case is. What we never do is we never ask the client to give us a dime to represent them. We don't ask them to pay costs as they go. We advance all costs, and we get paid at the end of the case if we are successful. If we are unsuccessful, we never ask the client for a dime.
Amazing. That's really fascinating, and I love that, because you are 100% sitting on the same side of the table as your client, and all the way through, which is a testimonial to the integrity that you bring to your client relationships, and also the outcome that your interests are aligned completely.
That's true. And I'm a passionate lawyer about what I do. I carry around a soapbox about injustice, and I've been in meetings with insurance company lawyers where their decision was just outrageous, and I'll say to them, you're here to settle, but why can't you just admit you were wrong and do the right thing and just pay the claim? And of course we argue, and they say, well, why don't you ever admit your clients are wrong? And I point out to them the difference is we probably reject 8 out of 10 people who ask us to represent them. And often it's, we don't see that you're correct. We don't see you have the medical support or the legal support, or you're misreading your policy. And we tell them, no, we can't represent you. When we take on a case, it's because we believe that our client has been wronged. We vet them. The other side of the coin, the insurance company, if they're, they get sued, they have to defend it. They don't get to say, no, we're not going to defend this. They have to. So that's my counter, is that we only take cases where we're convinced our client is right.
Yeah.
So we're kind of admitting 8 out of 10 cases that maybe these people are not right. And the insurance companies, they just have a difficult time admitting that they're wrong. It's an institutional problem.
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting that you do that, and I can see how that helps you stand out from your competition. One of my questions here is to talk a little bit about how you stand out from your competition. Tell me a little bit about other ways that you do that.
Well, I have colleagues out there who, if for some reason the client didn't want to hire us, I would be comfortable sending them directly to these colleagues. I'd send my mother or my sister. Some of these people have worked for me and decided to start their own firms, and I think very highly of them. So it's not that we're different from all of our colleagues or better than all of our competitors. I'll say there's none better than us, but I'm not going to say that I'm better than all of them. I believe that I've got some wonderful, and I call them colleagues more than competitors. There's plenty of business. We are very congenial.
Yeah.
Having said that, there are firms that I will never send somebody to, and I would highly recommend somebody not hire them. They are the firms that are, I would almost call them mills. They're settling mills. They take in as many cases as they can, and they just want to settle them for whatever they can get. The formula that I've seen and I've heard from mediators that's used is, well, I might have put a value in a case of $300,000. These other firms that I would call mills would tell the client it's worth $150. They would then go settle it very quickly for $200. Well, I would have gotten $3, and the client thinks, oh wow, it was only worth $150. And they got me $200,000. What a great job they did! But they really didn't. They really settled it for 2/3 of its real value. And I'll go back to our wins. I tell people, if you want to distinguish between the firms that are settlers and the firms that are litigators, ask them to give you a list of their wins. The firms that have them, they're the firms you want to look at. And because we have 15 lawyers and there's a lot of solo practitioners, it doesn't mean that because we have 50 wins on our list over the last 10 years and a solo practitioner might have 5, that doesn't mean that they're any less aggressive than we are. It's the firms that have none, that they may take in 5 times the cases that we do, but have no cases they've won. Those are the firms I tell people you really don't want to hire, unless you're looking for nothing but a quick settlement. So that's one way we stand out. Another is that, and I take this extremely seriously, we put the client first, always. It might be in our best interest to try the case, but it might not be in the client's best interest. I tell many clients, while winning is great, for you, losing is worse. So if you're getting an offer that maybe is a little less than I would suggest is, it's an appropriate offer. If it's the best they're going to pay, you might want to take it because losing would be bad. And maybe you've got a judge who's not as consumer friendly as we'd like. Maybe your doctor didn't do as good a job. Maybe they came to us and did their own appeal and didn't do it as well as we would have done it. And there's problems. And maybe losing is a possibility that they don't want to face. And if I were to try 10 cases and I'm going to win 8, I'd rather try all 10 personally. But if I'm going to lose 2 of them, I've got to keep in mind, I don't know which 2 I'm going to lose. And I have to think about those people. And I do it and my lawyers do it. We put the clients first. We communicate with our clients. There's nothing more frustrating than going months without hearing from your lawyer. We have a firm rule that we try and email the client with status at least once a month so they know what's going on. And if a client has a problem, I'm reachable. At any one time, we may have 100 different clients going on and 15 lawyers. But if anybody ever really wants to reach me, I'm accessible. My wife, who's my partner, is equally accessible. And I think that speaks volumes, that we're there for our clients.
Tell me about the strategy of the business. Are you focused nationally? Are you focused regionally? Tell me a little bit about that.
I would say we're focused on the West Coast. We're part of the Ninth Circuit, which is one of the federal circuits, Arizona, California, Washington, Oregon. But while we are, in the scheme of law firms, there's only about 20 of us. We believe we are the largest law firm in the country focused on the representation of people with health, life, disability problems. I'm aware of no firm larger. There's defense firms that are much larger, but no plaintiffs firms. We have the ability to work nationwide. In fact, we have expertise that when lawyers from all over the country lose a case and it needs to be appealed to the Circuit Court of Appeals, they will come to us and say, this is over our heads, will you take it on? In the last year, I've won cases at the 8th Circuit in St. Louis, in the 4th Circuit in Richmond, Virginia. My wife made important law in the 5th Circuit, which is extremely conservative, but she made favorable law in Texas. We've had lawyers in the 11th Circuit in Florida. So while, yes, we are focused on the West Coast, we do handle cases nationwide. We are small enough that our clients get individualized attention. There's never a time when a client would call and it's like, well, okay, we have to figure out who you are. So every client who retains Kantor and Kantor has 2 lawyers working on their case. So we have that ability to give them individualized attention. But at the same time, we have enough lawyers that the insurance companies don't bully us. We're not afraid of them. And we can do it both locally and across the country.
I love it. And I would imagine that you're affiliated with various associations like disability associations or employment associations. Tell me a little bit about some of the relationships that you have at those levels.
Well, we do. A lot of different areas of law overlap. People frequently, for example, may have a workers' compensation claim and a long-term disability claim. Workers' compensation attorneys do not do what we do, and we do not handle workers' compensation. So it's a symbiotic thing. We'll refer cases back and forth. Probably more importantly, though, is we have relationships with the MS Society, the Parkinson's Society, Lupus Society, where they know both that we are very good at what we do and that we are very client friendly. And they have social workers who field calls from their members. I've had a drug denied. My disability claim is denied. What do I do? Who do I call? And we're very proud that we are on lists of these organizations, and we think we're at the top of the list.
It's such a great service that you provide to your clients. You are righting things that have been wrong to them, and you're their advocate in a moment of need. Such a great relationship that you must have with your clients. I guess my last question for you is, what would you like to be celebrating a year from now? You've taken on so many different cases, and I'm sure you have some goals for what you'd like to accomplish and be celebrating a year from now. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I guess on a personal note or a firm note, I would like to have the people out there who need us know that we're there, which is one of our constant efforts, is to make sure that those in need know how to find us. As a more general lawyer goal, I would love to see Congress fix some of the laws that have been enacted that are helping insurance companies and harming individuals. Honestly, I don't have much optimism for that. Congress can't seem to get much done these days.
Just out of curiosity, why does Congress side with insurance companies like that? What it seems like we vote Congress people in to be our advocates for the people. Why do they side with insurance companies, and what's the dynamic going on there?
Well, I don't think that's a uniform statement, but you've got to remember that insurance companies, collectively are worth trillions of dollars, not millions, not billions, trillions of dollars. They have an unending supply of money to pay lobbyists. Individuals don't. I mean, yes, the MS Society lobbies, the Lupus Society, Parkinson's, but they don't have anywhere near the power that the insurance companies do. There are senators and congressmen out there who are putting forth bills, but they're not getting passed because they're being voted down by the congressmen and senators who are being supported by the insurance industry.
Fascinating dynamic. Glenn, how do people find you? Tell anybody who's listening what your website is and different ways that they might be able to connect with you if they have something that they want to talk to you about.
Well, if they want to find us and they go on the internet and they punch in the right keywords, disability lawyer, ERISA lawyer, bad faith lawyer, they will eventually find us. Our URL is www.kantorlaw.net. A great way to find either us or somebody who I think is as good as us is to find another lawyer, whether it's a lawyer who does what we do, but lawyers know how to find good lawyers. So if they talk to a real estate lawyer or a wills and trust lawyer, they're usually pretty good at ferreting out who knows what they're doing and who doesn't.
It's been a pleasure talking with you. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed learning about your business and feel like you're a hero to your clients who are really in a time of need. So thanks so much, Glenn. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Wonderful. Glenn Kantor from Kantor and Kantor. Thank you so much.